All right. Let us start this wonderful show that we got for you guys today. It's wonderful. You know, I'm doing things in reverse order these days. I keep telling you about the third hour first. In the third hour, we're going to have Paul Craig Roberts, and he's going to explain to you how they're coming. They're coming for your Social Security. He wrote a terrific article. It's very informative. We're going to do that. We're going to check in with Sam Cedar from Netroots Nation, and he's going to give us an update on what's going on there. I've got some Rush Limbaugh rage clips that I'm going to share with you guys, and that's a whole heap of fun. And then in the next segment, I'm very much looking forward to going after Republicans. I'm coming for them, okay? Some excellent and devastating stories on Republican ideology and what they plan to do. But here, let's start with going after Obama first. Okay. First of all, and this will be only, I think, today's only story about Shirley Sherrod, right? So Obama came out and he partly blamed the media. Now, there's been some headlines saying that he is blaming the media for what happened here. And look, it's not exactly what he said. I'll tell you exactly what he said. He said about Tom Vilsack, who made the decision to fire Sherrod, he jumped the gun partly because we now live in this media culture where something goes up on YouTube or a blog and everybody scrambles. But you see, that's the thing, though. On the one hand, he's blaming Vilsack and not really the media. On the other hand, he's saying it's because of the media that Vilsack and my administration panicked. But I think the most important part of that quote is he says, and everybody scrambles. Well, that's not really that true. Some people scramble. You scramble. You don't have to scramble. And he says it like it's the first time that this has ever happened. Here's another quote from him. If there's a lesson to be drawn from this episode, it's that we should avoid jumping to conclusions and pointing fingers at each other. Of course! But Barack or President Obama, you should have learned that lesson a long, long time ago. You should have learned that lesson with Van Jones. You should have learned it with Acorn. You should have learned it with Don Johnson. And now you're beginning to understand that lesson? But apparently you didn't at all before, because the lesson you learned earlier was panic and scramble before it makes it onto YouTube. And YouTube my ass. You're worried about Glenn Beck. All right? That's what you're worried about. And everybody knows it because we know the direct quote that the person who was pressuring Sherrod to resign said, "You're going to be on Glenn Beck tonight." Oh, that's so sad. All right. Okay, don't get me started on that again. So the bottom line is, you know, you should have come to this realization a million years ago. I'm not convinced that it's really sunk in yet to you. And you got to understand that your people, Rahm Emanuel, Jim Messina, the people running your organization are sending these messages to all of your administration, to all your different departments, saying, panic, whatever Fox does, make sure we give in to them before their primetime programming comes out. So that's the lesson you've got to learn, not that, oh, in this day and age, the media is so quick, and so we have to surrender before the clips go up. No, you have to look at the clips, you have to think about it, and then make your decision. And get a load of this. Sometimes you should fight back. Oh, man, that is weird. Who'd have thought of that? All right, now, look, I'm going to go after Obama on one more thing in this segment for you guys. I was on MSNBC, and they asked me about the revelation that we've now had $1.6 billion in bonuses that were paid out that should not have been paid out to the bankers while they had taxpayer money. And of course, it turns out, no, we can't get the money back. Oh, well, golly gee willikers, that's more money out the door. So I'm in a bit of a rage when I go on with Chris Jansing here on MSNBC. So let's check that out.
President's recent signing of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform bill, many critics say it's reform in name only, window dressing, riddled with loopholes that does nothing to address systemic problems at the heart of the financial meltdown. Is the president's relationship with Wall Street cozy? Joining us now to help answer that question is the host of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur. Good to see you, Cenk. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, the president hails this new financial reform law as the strongest consumer protection in history, and there are parts of it that definitely do offer consumer protection. But a lot of folks like you have said that it's watered down to the point of being ineffective. Did you see all this as just some sort of political ploy? What happened here in your mind?
I'm greatly amused by Feinberg's conclusion that $1.6 billion was ill-advised. Ill-advised for who? The bankers taking it home. They didn't think it was ill-advised. They thought it was a genius idea. And you know what? They're right, because they have it in their back pockets now. The problem isn't that. If you're asking the bankers to be nice guys and take less money, you're going to fail every time. And unfortunately, that's close to the Obama strategy. Pretty please with a cherry on top. Here's what they should have done. They should have gotten actually tough on the bankers and said, look, we're going to control your pay as long as you're taking indirect money from the government, not just the TARP money, but backdoor bailouts, 0% interest rates that they can borrow money at. We're going to do a tax on banker bonuses. We're going to do a financial transactions tax. These are all things that have been done in Europe or in some ways is suggested in some of the countries and implemented in the others. So they're entirely doable. And they were entirely undone because the Obama administration and the Republicans didn't want any piece of it because, unfortunately, our system is broken and the banks run the place.
Do they get credit, the Obama administration, Feinberg, for talking now about at least this provision that would break compensation contracts in case of another crisis?
In case of another crisis.
Would that be no?
That's a joke. You know what that says? That says, no, I'm going to keep letting them rob you. But when we're totally out of money, maybe I'll stop them from robbing you. By that time, it'll be too late. Look, the money's... You know what's happening right now, Chris? This is the last great heist. The banks are actually insolvent. They still have those toxic assets. They still have the foreclosure problems. We never actually fixed it. This is the great Tim Geithner cover-up. And what's happening is they're making record profits by taking taxpayer money. Every dollar that they take home in bonuses today is a dollar that's going to come out of taxpayer pockets later. It's the last great heist, while we don't realize how broke they really are.
Cenk Uygur, Young Turks, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. All right, there you go. Before I went on, I tweeted that I was going to bring it. I think I released a couple of Krakens there. Look, one thing I want to make clear, though, is that it's not just on Obama. Because the last thing I want people to think is, oh, Obama and the Democrats are on the side of the bankers, but the Republicans are against them. The bankers are the Republicans are the worst. They fought. You know what they are with the bankers? They're BFFs, best friends forever. They fought every piece of reform, as I'm going to tell you in the next segment. They plan to repeal it if they ever get in charge. They say, we promise, we'll repeal even the weak sauce stuff that Obama did. So the only person worse than Obama is by far and away the Republicans. So that's why, of course, we get a little discouraged because we're stuck in the middle. And it doesn't seem like there's much of an option. But I don't want anybody looking at that and thinking, oh, wow, if Obama was soft on the bankers and the Republicans are against Obama, then they must be tough on the bankers, because that ain't even close to true. All right, when we come back, let's kick the crap out of the Republicans. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. Before I go on to kicking Republican ass, I did want to say a couple more things about Obama, I decided. I love the people, by the way, who comment online that all I ever do is kiss Obama's ass. Really? Really? Okay. Anyway, we were talking about that clip, that story about Ken Feinberg, the pay czar, who says, oopsie doopsie, we had $1.6 billion in bonuses paid out when they shouldn't have been paid out when they were receiving direct federal bailout money for these top 17 banks, right? He says, but as it turns out, there's nothing that can be done. Isn't that always the case? There's nothing that could ever be done about the bankers, ever, right? Which is, by the way, total nonsense. You can do a clawback. You can say, hey, you know what? You got that money when you shouldn't have. That's taxpayer money, and we can claw it back in 18 different ways. We can claw it back by simply just taking it back. Of course we can if we wanted to. Of course we can. What? No, the federal government is powerless in the face of the bankers. Number two, you could say, all right, you know what? Because of that, we're doing a bonus. We're going to do a tax on bankers' bonuses. Believe me, there's 100 ways to skin that cat, okay? So don't give me this. But then the part that I laughed uproariously at, I just wanted to clarify it for you guys. They say, no, don't worry. Next time, though, next time there's an enormous crash, and next time we give them, hundreds of millions of dollars in bailout money, then we'll make sure they don't rob us that time. I mean, it's a joke, the whole thing. And you wonder why I think the bankers run the place. I mean, what kind of pathetic answer is that? Look, if you remember we did that story of the person who didn't, for her insurance, missed payment by a penny. And it's not that she missed it, it's a clerical error, right? A penny. And you know what they did? They took her insurance away. So for 1 penny, they'll crunch you, right? They'll come after you no matter what. But meanwhile, $1.6 billion walks out the door, our money. And who's complaining about it? You know what Obama did? He came out today, he had a press conference, talked about this, and said, quote, we've made enormous progress. Oh, for Christ's sake. I mean, I know he's going to say that, but that is not enormous progress. And then if you go to the opposition party, you go to the Republicans, go, hey, you know what? The bankers just stole $1.6 billion of taxpayer money, and that adds to our deficit. I mean, I know you care about the deficit, right? You tell me every day, and you care about protecting the taxpayers. That's what you tell me every day. So why don't you go get that $1.6 billion back from the bankers? Yeah, right. Yeah, the bankers, the Republicans will be doing that. More likely they'll call their friend, Blankfein. Hey, they'll be like, hey, Biffy, how you doing? They'll be like, oh, Boehner, how are you doing, Buffy? All right, one more thing on this. Barney Frank lately I've had some issues with. Okay. I thought he, in some ways watered down that financial reform bill. He says he had to, as you'll see in this clip. He thinks Obama had to, too. But, he's going to come out fighting on the other side here. I certainly like this comment, so let's share it with you. Clip number 3.
I sympathize with President Obama. He's been criticized by some of my liberal friends. We didn't get a public option. We didn't get other things we wanted. That wasn't his fault. The economic recovery bill, the stimulus, it wasn't as big as it should have been. That wasn't his fault. He couldn't get the votes. But with regard to appointing Elizabeth Warren, that's his decision. No one can stop him from making it, and I hope he will appoint her.
In the beginning, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound that great, because we don't really believe he didn't have a choice, of course. But the comment on Elizabeth Warren, that's an elbow from the sky. And that's a guy that Obama has to listen to some degree. Or at least he will hear that. Let's put it that way. Doesn't mean he has to listen to it, but he will hear it. That Barney Frank is saying, hey, you know what? If you don't appoint Elizabeth Warren, that's on you, big guy. That means you're just punking out. God, that Elizabeth Warren decision is so large, and I have so little hope. But, look, and credit where credit is due, AFL-CIO fighting on it. Almost all the progressive groups are fighting. Americans for Financial Reform. Everybody's on Elizabeth Warren's side, of course, with the exception of Tim Geithner. So Tim Geithner, and this it'll be a good test case, right? Because Tim Geithner versus all of the progressives, who wins? Remember, Obama has a man crush on Tim Geithner, so that's not a good omen for what's to come. I have a small story on that. Let me do that too. Let me skip ahead on that one. So they asked Geithner about Elizabeth Warren, and he said, well, I think she would be a very effective leader of that institution, meaning the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You know what that means? That means I'm not in favor of her. You have to do translations for politicians. Of course, Tim Geithner isn't going to come out and be like, Elizabeth Warren, that skank? That hussy? No, of course I'm not in favor of her. No, he's going to say she would be a very effective leader. That, if you translate that, that means, but there could be other effective leaders, and it doesn't have to be her, and I'm certainly not endorsing her. And if you don't believe me on that, okay, well, you were wrong, because here comes the following quotes. He noted that there are, quote, colleagues in the White House that have put out 2 other names. You don't say, well, you know what, she could be a very effective leader, but there are 2 other names there, unless you're interested in 2 other names. So they said, what do you think about those guys? Oh, they are two very well qualified, excellent candidates as well. And I've heard of others. In other words, anybody but Elizabeth Warren. Okay. Go. Super clear, super clear. Oh, Obama says he learned from Shirley Sherrod. He didn't. My guess is he didn't learn anything. But look, we can come out on Monday and he appoints Elizabeth Warren. It's possible. It's possible. And he's taking a lot of pressure. And by the way, think about that too, okay? One more thing on this. I know I can't help myself, right? So listen to this. So Fox News just does this, just puts a little thumb on the scale and says, Glenn Beck is coming. Shirley Sherrod instantly fired. Elbow from the sky. Dropped a leg on her. Okay? Suplex, right? Gone. Obliterated, right? All of the progressive groups, now congressmen, senators, unions, progressive organizations, economists, everybody is saying Elizabeth Warren for the head of the Financial Protection Bureau. And Obama's like, what? Is there a fly in here? Okay, now we don't know which way he's going to go. But if he does not pick Elizabeth Warren, despite all of the pressure that the progressive community in the country can muster, that means, first of all, the fact that we're even having this debate shows you how much more powerful Glenn Beck and Fox News Channel and conservatives are in this country than progressives. Because Obama will listen to them instantly. For progressives, you have to put all that pressure, and he has to think about it for days and weeks and maybe. And my guess is at the end he won't do it. So you get the sense of our relative power. Now, I could understand that if we elected a Republican president. My understanding was that we elected a Democratic president. Not only did we elect a Democrat, we elected someone who said, change! I'm going to bring you change! We're not going to do anything like those Republicans used to. And they wonder why progressives might be upset with Obama. Gee, I want to... God, you know, the mainstream press. They're genuinely like, really? Why? He did this massive financial reform, massive healthcare reform. Why are you guys upset? This guy's, Fox News calls him a socialist. You guys should be in heaven, shouldn't you? Really? But can't you see? Do you have eyes? Do you have ears? Can you hear? Can you read? All the progressive pressure, a little bit of conservative pressure. Okay. Every day. It's not just Shirley Sherrod. I've done it. Van Jones, Acorn, Dawn Johnson, Social Security Deficit Commission, Elizabeth Warren, and the list goes on and on. No, we won't prosecute on torture. No, we won't prosecute on the Attorney General's case. We'll take away money from the university involved in so-called ClimateGate. God, conservatives are still in charge because Obama is weak. He's weak. I hate to tell you that, but that's the reality. It's an issue that just keeps sucking me back in. All right, now, finishing up the Geithner interview that I started on here, they asked him about Steinbrenner because, you know, the Republicans did this cute little thing where, and this is Republican fault, and they did try to change this. Democrats did try to change this, and they didn't have the votes. You know, and I can tell you that, because I see when they're actually trying and when they're not trying, right? If they put it up for a vote, you know, they try to get past the filibuster. That means they're trying, right? When they go, oh, what can we do? We don't have the numbers. That means they're not trying. On this, they did, right? A little bit at least. Although some Democrats are certainly not on board. We told you about Kent Conrad yesterday. We got more of that in a little bit. Anyway, so the Republicans took away the estate tax for this year, 2010. Steinbrenner died. I was away when he died. I don't know if you guys covered this on the show. You know, his family gets to keep $500 million extra that they would have paid in estate tax. So that's $500 million the government could have had for our budget problems, etc. Instead, Steinbrenner's descendants, who didn't do anything, are going to get that money tax-free. Okay. So when they asked Tim Geithner about it, he said, you know, he said that's a good question, and that, you know, I think it's terribly troubling that in the United States of America we would let that lapse and leave its future uncertain for such a long period of time. It's terribly troubling. But like I said, they tried, right? When asked if the family should voluntarily contribute the money to deficit reduction, Geithner's response was, it's an excellent question. No, it's not. It's a comical question. Okay, anybody want to make a bet? Jesus, you want to make a bet on whether George Steinbrenner's family voluntarily gives up that $500 million for deficit reduction? Here's my guess as to what they're voluntarily going to give up. Dick. Okay, not a cent. Okay, that's what they're going to give up. But that's the whole problem with the Republican, conservative, Geithner, and unfortunately Obama ideology, which is if we ask the really rich people in the country really nicely, maybe they'll just give it to us. Maybe they'll just do regulation on their own. Maybe they'll just give us the tax money on their own. Yeah, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe the Steinbrenner family will give that $500 million to the government. Anybody want to bet on it? I'll bet you anything in the world. Okay, come on. You see, that's why I call these things a joke. Because, I mean, that's literally, when I read it in the article, I laughed out loud. I was like, LOL? Yeah. Shit, I wouldn't give the money back. Are you kidding me? They give me $500 million. They say, all right, and I give it back to the government. I'd be like, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Okay, you think the Steinbrenner family is going to give it back? All right. So now, let's for the love of God, let's go to the Republicans and kick their ass. Okay. So the question is, what happens if the Republicans win the House, right? Because now they're saying, look, they got a reasonable chance. Democratic voters lack all energy and any reason to show up to vote because we didn't get the progressive change we thought we were going to get last time we showed up to vote. Polls show that likely voters, Republicans have an 8-point advantage, which is very large, especially in a midterm election. And if the Democrats lose 39 seats in the House, now that's a lot of seats, but it could happen. It's doable. They'll lose control of the House. So what happens if the Republicans are back in charge? Well, their leadership is telling us now. John Boehner said that he would immediately repeal health care reform. And right after Wall Street reform passed, Boehner said minutes later, quote, it ought to be repealed. So whatever tiny bit of change we got, if the Republicans are back in charge, they're going to look to repeal it instantly. Now, look, they'd have to get it past the Senate. I don't think they're going to get the Senate. They'd have to get it past Obama. I don't think, of course, they're not going to get it past Obama. But that is their intent, right? And now you go to Michelle Bachmann. She's now the head of the House Tea Party caucus because she selected herself for that role. So let's see what Michelle Bachmann thinks we should do if they're back in charge.
How do you feel about the chances for like a little oversight and a little accountability? I may be putting the cart before the horse here, but assuming the Republicans win the House back this next cycle, how do you feel about the chances for like a little oversight and a little accountability with now that the Republicans would have the subpoena power? How aggressive do you think?
Oh, I think that's all we should do. I think all we should do is issue subpoenas and have one hearing after another and expose all the nonsense that has gone on. And it's very important when we come back that we have constitutional conservative leadership because the American people's patience is about this big, so we have to make sure that we do what the people want us to do. Because one thing that you should know is that the most dramatic story that's happened in the last 18 months is that the federal government, before 18 months ago, the private economy was 100% held in private hands. But today, 65% of the economy is now held in government's hands.
Absurd.
Direct ownership or control. This is your future we're talking about. So we've got to unravel that, and we've got to get the private sector back to being private and the government back to being government. And this is the year. I mean, this is it. All of our chips are on November. If we don't get it back and then starve the beast, the House, we have the power of the purse, so we can starve Obamacare. We don't have to fund any of these programs. And that's exactly what we need to do, defund all of this nonsense and then unwind it. So anyway, thank you very much.
All right. First of all, I love that stat she made up in the middle. That's one of my favorite stats of all time. Before Obama came in, 100% of the economy is owned by private interests. Afterwards, 65% of the entire national economy owned by the government. Oh, please show me that stat. Please show me your source for that. What the hell does that even mean? Let alone, really, in a year and a half, he took over 65% of the economy, and the government owns it. I mean, look, they're not. That's the thing about these guys. They don't care. They don't care. They're like, what number should we make up? Oh, 65% of the economy is now owned by the government. Before it was 0% a year and a half ago. Okay. Anyway, so But the more important thing is, he said, look, what we have to do is if we get in charge, defund and unwind everything. We're back to the party of no, okay? And the killer quote is, I think all we should do is issue subpoenas and have one hearing after another and expose all the nonsense that has been going on. Now, she's not alone. Darrell Issa from California, another Republican, would then be the head of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. He says that he believes in the power of the subpoena and that he could use it to cause legislative headaches and political paralysis for this administration. Now, get a little difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. When Democrats were asked to investigate, like warrantless wiretapping or torture or the war or the $10 billion of taxpayer money we lost in Iraq, all those things, they said, well, you know what, we don't want to paralyze the government, right? And so we want to keep going. And they did that in the middle of the Bush administration. Oh, no, that would suck up a lot of time and energy, and nobody can get anything done. No. When you ask the Republicans, they're like, oh, we can't wait to paralyze the government. Like, yeah, that'd be fantastic. We just issue subpoena after subpoena. By the way, what are they investigating? Bachmann doesn't mention it. Issa doesn't mention it. Boehner doesn't mention it, because there hasn't even really been any scandal or any charges of, like, impropriety, illegal actions by the Obama administration. I'm sure they'll make something up. Believe me, between now and the time they get subpoena power, if they get it, they will definitely make something up. But there aren't even any charges right now. But we had clear violations of the law. The Hatch Act, the Torture Act of 1996 passed by Bob Dole. All of these different things that they broke, the Fourth Amendment violations, and we refuse to investigate any of it, right? Or, oh, no, we wouldn't want to do that. We have to look forward, not backward. The Republicans, without any substance whatsoever, they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, if we get it, all we're going to do is investigate and try to bring him down. And we're going to paralyze the government. So why have we been playing patty cakes with these guys? Obama thinks he's going to do bipartisanship. He's going to do bipartisanship with these guys, with these sons of bitches. Okay, yeah. No, if they win the House back because you didn't do anything progressive and you didn't get any of your voters to show up, yeah, we'll see if Issa and Bachmann and Boehner are in a bipartisan mood. Yeah, good strategy. See how that works out for you. We have one party that is totally loathsome, and we have another party that is so pathetically weak. And we're stuck in the middle. Clowns to the left of us, jokers to the right of us. All right. Now, part of the effort in winning back the House and the Senate is led by Karl Rove for the Republicans. He's got a new group called American Crossroads, and what they want to do is they want to raise money and spend it, of course, to defeat Democrats and elect Republicans. And this is a good way of getting the money to those Republican races without the accountability of it going directly to campaigns, and they could get around the RNC this way and not deal with Michael Steele. So in their world, it makes a lot of sense. Now, Karl Rove says this is a grassroots group. Grassroots, right? So that means a lot of little donations throughout the country, real, populist feeling in the American people. They want to take back their government, right? Well, here's the problem. It's a 527, so we can look at their IRS filings, and we know exactly where their money comes from. They have raised $4.7 million to date. 97% of it comes from 4 billionaires. It's an awesome joke. Okay, so the 4 guys are Trevor Reese-Jones. He runs a Dallas-based Chief Oil and Gas. He gave $1 million. He's worth $1.5 billion. Okay? The next guy is Bradley Wayne Hughes. He is chairman of Public Storage Incorporated. He gave $1.55 million. He's worth $3.9 billion. And then we have Harold Simmons, who's the owner of Southwest Louisiana Land LLC. He donated $1 million. He's worth $4.5 billion. In the past, he's given $3 million to push all the Bill Ayers stuff during the Obama administration, during the 2008 election against Obama. He was the only guy that was funding that effort. He spent $3 million to try to connect Bill Ayers to Barack Obama. You see how very grassroots this is. And then finally, the last guy is Robert Rowling. He's also from Dallas, and he's worth $4.4 billion. He owns Omni Hotels and Gold's Gym. Note to self, don't go to Gold's Gym anymore. And he gave $1 million as well. So 97% of this grassroots organization's money comes from 4 billionaires. 3 of them from Dallas, 2 of them oil money. That's the Republicans' idea of grassroots. So there's no real, this groundswell of people giving money to the Republicans to get their government back. No, there's these rich people who want to come after your Social Security and your Medicare and who want to loot it so they can get more money, and they want to make sure that their tax cuts are as low as humanly possible. So to that end, by the way, what's going on in that regard? How about the top 2% of the country getting permanent Bush tax cuts, right? Now, this is good news. Even Geithner is against that. And I knew we were in good shape when Bob Rubin came out and said, hey, you know what? No. The Bush tax cuts for the top 2% have to end. It would create an enormous deficit problem. And it's true. It would, as I've told you before, that would be a $678 billion giveaway to the top 2% of the country without any offset in the budget. I mean, if you're a fiscal conservative, that's a nuclear bomb going off on the budget, okay? And so Rubin's against it, Geithner's against it, Obama's against it. They're fighting hard to make sure that gets, those tax cuts are not made permanent. Now, part of their problem is not just the Republicans, but the corporatist Democrats. So now we have 3 senators that are on the record and probably a lot more behind them. Kent Conrad, of course Ben Nelson, and of course Evan Bayh from Indiana. Remember when he said he was going to retire and the mainstream press, couldn't get out of his ass? They were all struggling at the same time to get in rather than get out. Oh, what a great centrist, moderate senator. Oh, we're going to miss it. Well, what are we going to do without Evan Bayh? He was the great centrist, moderate senator. And now we have these people on the left and the right. Evan Bayh was so awesome. Well, it turns out Evan Bayh is a guy who loves to give money away to the wealthy and is not at all progressive. And there's nothing moderate about giving $678 billion to the top 2% of the country. There's nothing conservative about it either. That's not a conservative position. If you're talking about being a fiscal conservative, which is what Evan Bayh claims to be, no, that's a kiss-ass position. That's, hey, I will kiss your rich ass, and then when I retire from the Senate, you will pay me a lot of money for that. That's what it is, because our politicians are bought. And if anybody tells you somebody's a centrist Democrat, run for the hills. That means they're a corporatist looking to rob you. Evan Bayh, Ben Nelson, Kent Conrad, and there'll be many more to add to that list as we get into that fight. Thank God, though, on that issue, Obama administration is on the right side. Okay? Credit where credit is due. All right. Now, I'm on a roll, man. Let me do one more here. Oh. In the next segment, I'm going to tell you about Republican priorities. And by the way, again, the conservative Democrats, centrist Democrats priority. But I got one more precious one on Boehner for you. So John Boehner has voted to, of course, not give further unemployment benefits. But he says, no, I'm not like the other Republicans who think that everybody's lazy and if you give them unemployment, it will encourage more laziness. No, I have empathy. It's just that I think we have to pay for it. I don't think we have to pay for tax cuts, and I don't think we have to pay for for the wars that we're involved in. But hey, if you're unemployed, we're going to definitely make you pay for that. But I'm a good guy. In fact, he tells us he has empathy. It's because of his brothers. So let's listen. He says, I've got real empathy for those who are unemployed. As most of you know, I've got 11 brothers and sisters. I know that 3 of my brothers lost their jobs. I'm not sure whether they've found jobs yet, so I've got a lot of empathy for those caught in this economic downturn. Now, how much empathy can you have for your brothers if you don't even know whether they have a job or not? These guys are self-parody, man. He's like, oh, no, my brothers, man, they're unemployed, so I feel terrible for them. How are they doing? Oh, I don't know. Who cares? I mean, I'm all about empathy. I'm the most empathetic Republican there is. Forget the political stuff for a second. Who doesn't know what the situation of their brothers are? Right? I know you got 11 brothers and sisters. That's a lot, right? But don't you guys call each other? You don't even know if your brother has a job or not? And then you bring it up in a quote like you have empathy for them? Apparently you couldn't give a flying F about them. Republican empathy. All right, Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. Tom just handed me an article by the Atlantic. Now, this was last year, not this year, okay? But this was after Obama already had, in the words of the conservatives, including Jonah Goldberg, Richard Shelby, etc., had nationalized everything. And okay, so remember how Michelle Bachmann, we told you in the last segment, said that now 65% of the economy is owned by the government? You want to know what the real number is? 0.21%. There it is. 0.21%. Okay. That's awesome. But according to Michelle Bachmann, no, it's 65%. Numbers, they're inconvenient. It's tough. And who believes numbers anyway? All right. So now, let's talk about a bill that passed today, because I think it's very instructive as to what our priorities are in this country, unfortunately. The House had passed a war funding bill, but they had attached $20 billion to it in add-ons. Okay, so what were the add-ons? Well, that's important, because if they're, they don't make sense, maybe they shouldn't get passed. So there's $10 billion in grants to school districts to avoid teacher layoffs, $5 billion to Pell Grants for low-income college students, $1 billion for a summer jobs program, $700 million to improve security along the U.S.-Mexico border, and then about $4 billion to pay out for black farmers and Indian trust funds that the United States government was guilty of. The trust fund we mishandled, and black farmers we discriminated against. Those issues have been resolved, and we owe them that money, right? Well, we're not going to pay. That didn't get funded. The schools didn't get funded, and even the security on the border didn't get funded. The Republicans refused, and a couple of Democrats, of course, as always, joined them, and they killed it. What's the only thing that got funded? The war. So they got war funding. Oh, and to be fair, a little bit of foreign aid, but don't get too carried away. Just a little bit to Haiti, and then a lot of it is also to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Okay, so that's also part of the war money. And then one other thing, for the tremendous damage we did to our veterans in Vietnam, we're still paying out for the damage from Agent Orange. So the consequences of earlier wars, which we should, of course, pay, but understand that that lasts for decades and decades. So what does that tell you about our priorities? We always have money for war, but when it comes to education or spending money on the American population here at home, not so much. People don't get as rich off of that, whereas the defense contractors get very rich off of the wars, and they've bought all the generals who retired. We did a story earlier where we told you about 80% of the high-ranking generals that retire go to defense contractors and get their bribe, their payment after they retire for all the good contracts they got earlier. All the government workers, whether they're the senators or people that worked in the White House or their staff, they all get hired by those same guys. They all get campaign contributions from those same guys. So if you're a low-income student, what money do you have? You don't have any money. You're not getting a Pell Grant. No, good luck to you, buddy. Here's some bootstraps. You're a giant defense company. Of course, here's $60 billion. That, unfortunately, is the priorities of our government, Republican, and in this case, Democrat as well. It's the Obama administration that asked for it. It's Democrats that turned against it. That's why we couldn't pass it in the Senate. So there it is. That's why our system is broken. It doesn't represent the people. It's not, at this point, not really even a functioning democracy. It's a system captured by the richest people in the country to suck all the money out. All right, now, don't worry, though. There are some good Republicans who are going to come and fix it. Now, David Vitter is running in Louisiana, of course, and you remember he got caught with a hooker. But there's a good conservative Republican who's going to challenge him, and he's got his stuff in order, okay? And so I'm sure that if he's running against David Vitter, who, of course, ran into all these issues for being a family values Republican, who then apparently visits hookers all the time. So let's see what Chet Traylor is up to. Well, it turns out Chet Traylor, who is a Louisiana Supreme Court justice, has had some moral issues of his own. First, he slept with State Representative Noble Ellington's wife, Peggy McDowell, who then became Peggy McDowell Traylor, and he married her. So he just swiped the guy's wife, sad day for him. And he says, this Ellington guy says, oh, well, we were still married when he had an adulterous affair with her. He says, oh, that's the guy who got hosed. Okay, and of course the Republican says, oh, no, I only had sex with his wife after they got divorced, kind of. So, okay, now, well, it's not that big a deal, right? That's almost too boring to report. Here's the twist that makes it more fun for this conservative family values guy. Well, it turns out that his wife, unfortunately, of course, passed away. Peggy McDowell Traylor, the one he had the affair with, she passed away. But fear not, there's always an Ellington to screw over. So you remember the original guy, the state representative, Noble Ellington, the guy we showed you, he had stolen his wife, right, the Republican had. Well, he has a son, Ryan Ellington, and he's married to Denise Lively. And guess who Chet Traylor, the Republican, slept with next? Yep, Denise Lively, the son of the Noble Ellington, Ryan Ellington. Now, there was a lot of things in there, so let me clarify. Ryan Ellington, at that point, was his stepson. Because remember, he married his mom, right? So he comes in and has sex with his stepson's wife. I don't, by the way, he must have something going on. Because all these Ellington ladies are running right to him. I mean, I don't know how young this Denise Lively is, but okay, so she goes in again, and he cheats and has another adulterous affair. But don't worry, they're conservative, family values Republican, and so you've got the adulterer who's having sex with his stepson's wife running against the Republican who has visited hookers in New Orleans and Washington, etc. My last question to you guys on this issue for Republicans. If you're a Republican out there, do you really believe any of your guys are pro-family values? I mean, are you that much of a sucker? Don't you get it? They're messing with you, man. They're doing it to get your votes. They think you're a sucker. And then as soon as they have your votes, they're like, oh, family values. Come on, who can I fuck? Okay, you and your wife. Come on. My son, your wife. Come on. Hookers. Come on. Okay, and those are the straight guys, let alone the gay Republicans. When are you going to stop believing their nonsense? It's a good question. All right, now back to the Democrats and their troubles. Okay, you see, I'm giving it to both of them. There's no question about that. So Charlie Rangel finally had his ethics violations. The House Investigative Committee on Thursday charged Charlie Rangel with ethics violations. They'd been investigating for a long time. Now, I told you about some of these, and I was a little skeptical on some of them. I've now read the full list, and they've done the investigation. They've actually charged him. And now I have a fuller vision of the story. First, let me quickly run down the list for you guys and tell you what makes sense and what doesn't. They said that he used official stationery to raise money for his Center for Public Service at the City College of New York. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, I don't give a damn. Official stationery. Who cares? Okay, that might be a technical violation. I swear to you, I wouldn't hold that against a Republican. I wouldn't hold it against a Democrat. No big deal. Okay. The second charge. When he was the head of the Ways and Means Committee, he considered legislation that would benefit donors to his Rangel Center at the same time that the congressman solicited donations or pledges. Now, that's supposed to go doot. Okay, we got issues. Okay, that's a problem, man. You can't solicit donations at the same time as you're considering a loophole for the guy. All right, point number 3. He preserved a tax shelter for an oil drilling company, Neighbors Industries, as its chief executive had donated money to the center while Rangel's committee considered another loophole legislation. Oh, come on. Okay, we're getting close to, okay, bounds of reason here. That sounds terrible, right? And then he used 4 rent-controlled apartment units in New York. Now, the only way you can use a rent-controlled apartment is if it's your primary residence. How can you have 4 primary residences? And one of them, he said, was his campaign office. Well, it's supposed to be a residence, not a campaign office. That's 3. Okay, there you go. And then this one sounds bad, but I don't think it's that bad. Publicly reported information on the financing and rental of his ownership interest in a unit within the Punta Cana Yacht Club in the Dominican Republic. Okay, it's a yacht club. It sounds bad. He should have reported stuff. but I know the details of that case, and they changed the reporting requirements. He was used to doing it one way, and then he had to do it another way, and he didn't. That's a technical violation, and he should suffer some consequence for it. But compared to other stuff, it's not that bad, okay? And then finally, he intentionally failed to report, when required, hundreds of thousands of dollars more in assets. That is also very, very bad because it looks like he's hiding stuff. And from the other charges, it looks like, yeah, that's what he's hiding, right? So massive trouble for Charlie Rangel. And if these charges prove to be correct, which it looks like, I mean, I don't want to prejudge, but it looks damn bad, then Charlie Rangel's got to go. Got to go, got to go. No way around it, okay? And I don't give a damn if Republicans are the ones that are stealing our money or the Democrats. See, I don't know why anybody would. I don't know why people stick up for Team Democrat or Team Republican. Why would I want a Democrat to steal my money? I don't. So, I mean, now it's not direct stealing money, but all these violations basically add up to that, right? So, no. Hell no. Gotta go. Young Turks.